186 bands, 46 stages over 3 nights. Big Sound is the biggest music festival you've never heard of, and I was lucky enough to play it. Why haven't you heard of Big Sound? Well, Big Sound is an Australian music festival that is meant to showcase and highlight the biggest upcoming Australian music acts around the country. Some acts that have played Big Sound at the start of their careers, or at least when they were up and coming, are bands like Polaris, 12 Foot Ninja, and even guys like Flume, Hilltop Hoods, etc, etc. The main purpose of Big Sound is to fly in industry delegates and important people to suss all the new and upcoming Australian music acts. And with over thousands of entries from across the whole country, the final roster is meant to be a representation of the best new and upcoming music coming out of Australia. Big Sound was literally our 5th show as a band. So, you know, flying interstate, all that stuff, it was very still like foreign to us as a band. You know, not many people kind of get this opportunity, and for us to do it so early was very nerve-wracking. There was so much prep that went into our set. And we really wanted to seem much more professional than we are. However, with that being said, Stephen, Keyan and I weren't really nervous going into the festival, probably out of ignorance because we had no idea what to expect, you know, playing Big Sound as an instrumental prog band. So let's break the 3 days down day by day, starting at day 0 to 1. The festival spanned from 3 days between the 6th to the 9th of September, but we flew out on the 5th at night. We got there around 11 PM, just so we'd be there for those 3 full days. Virgin Airlines allows you to take up to a total of 69 kilos across 3 items if you're a musician. You just need to show them your APRA number and they kind of grant you all this extra baggage, which is really, really handy. I was so sketched out about flying. It's the first time we've ever flown, or I've ever flown gear anywhere. You know, being on the plane with it and stuff, and you hear so many horror stories, but everything got there in one piece, and I'm super happy that it did. As I said, we arrived safe and sound, and we were staying with our friend Logan, who was kind enough to host us for the entire trip, so massive thank you, Logan, you are an absolute legend. Day 1, we find ourselves in Fortitude Valley in Brisbane, which is where the entire festival is held. Fortitude Valley is basically a nightlife strip full of clubs, bars, dive bars, and actual legitimate venues that are sprinkled around a couple different blocks. The first show was a Destroyer Line showcase show alongside Sunbleach, Future Static, Rin Rin, and The Last Martyr, all of which became super close within those couple days because we were pretty much like the only quote-unquote heavy acts in the festival, alongside Zeolite and Wildheart, who also became good friends with us. Everyone was just kind of hanging around each other and it was a good time. The show went really well. We played a tight 25-minute set. It was really neat and tidy, and it will be the same set that we play across the other nights. Speaking of neat and tidy, this video is sponsored by Gothic Jewelry. If you've been following me for a little while, you probably noticed that I don't mind wearing rings from time to time. So Gothic Jewelry reached out, and I was actually really surprised with all the variety that they have and all the different jewelry you can get, all of which can be found on their website, gothic.com. I handpicked these ones myself, and I really like them because they're super minimalistic and they're not too loud. If you're interested in checking out any of this stuff, all the relevant links will be down in my description, and you can also use the code Keyan20 to get 20% off at checkout. After playing the first show, it was a very strong indicator of what the entire week would be like. Just very fast paced. This is definitely an industry event, not a music festival. It is a music festival, but it's very much an industry event. You know, no one was guaranteed a sound check at any time. Your changeovers between bands were like 10 minutes or less. The whole time was very short, fast, loud. Being thrown in that type of environment in our stage as a band, playing shows, you know, we've only done a couple. It was very eye-opening, and I'm glad that it happened because, you know, I have a tendency to be very, very careful about a lot of things, and when things can't be careful because there simply isn't enough time, it's very good to be thrown into an environment like that so you can come up with quick scenarios on how to actually fix any problems that might come up. Being thrown in the deep end like that is a great way to kind of condition us for the future, where we don't get the luxury of sound checks or setting up or anything like that. After the gig was done, we kind of just packed down, put our stuff away, and kind of just had a walk around Fortitude Valley, because everywhere, every bar, every club, every restaurant, every venue had someone playing in it as part of the festival, and it was very cool to kind of be in that environment where no matter where you walk, there is live music happening. It was very, very cool. Day 2. Now, day 2 of Big Sound, for me anyway, was just full of meetings. These are formal meetings that Big Sound and Q Music kind of put together for the artists that connect them with the industry people that they invite to the festival. My morning consisted of meetings with people from things like Sony Music, Apra Music, Wild Things Music. I met up with Ophelia at Big Mouth PR after, because she's doing the PR for the latest single that's coming out. She was also with Chris from Wind Waker, so we were having a nice old chat. After all that, we gathered all of our gear and head to the Zoo, which is a really, really nice Brisbane venue. We were actually the first band to play that night at the Zoo, so we did get a cheeky sound check for like one song. Massive thank you to Lockie and Chris, who helplessly and selflessly offered to do lights and sound for us for the whole time we were there at Big Sound. Massive thanks to you guys. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate it. Another night, another successful show. Nothing really went wrong. Nothing that we couldn't fix on the fly anyway. We played great. I think, you know, when we don't have to think about our playing, which is most of the time when everything goes right, that's when I know that it was a good show. Like, playing is the least of our problems. I find I only get stressed out, or we only get stressed out when there's like a technical fault or something like that, because we're pretty much, you know, good with the set. It's just kind of things that are out of our control. Moving on to day 3. Now, this was the last day of the festival. Our last show that night was at a place called Woolly Mammoth. Now, that was a really cool and intimate venue. It wasn't small by any means, but just the way everything was set out, it was very streamlined. And even if the room wasn't that big, with people, you know, it still felt big. Throughout that day, I had a bunch of like unofficial meetings. You know, I met up with Jaden from Destroy All Lines, and we were talking about bookings for next year tours and stuff like that. Also got the chance to catch up with Heath from Fender, who I've been talking to over email for like 2 years now. So it was really good to kind of put a face to the name. We had a good chat about Josh's signature guitar from Northlane, which was very, very insightful. Heath is an absolute legend, and he is the guy that has been sending me all of these Misha Juggernaut Evertune guitars. And, you know, to his credit, I use them all the time. You probably see me play that Evertune 7-string Misha like all the time, because it generally is the guitar that I play the most. It's the one I play on stage. It's the one I record with now. It's just an absolute beast, and it held up really, really, really well for all those Big Sound shows. Third night was a little bit interesting because something happened between us loading our gear in and setting it up on the stage. I don't know what happened, but essentially I couldn't hear myself for that entire show. As we were setting up the rack, for some reason, the right side of my stereo guitar was not going through the front of house. So whenever I would play, it would only come out the left. And in my ears, you know, I'm hearing my right side of the guitar, because whenever I'm playing rhythm, I have a pre-recorded track going through the left. But live, you know, when I'm playing rhythms, all I hear is the right. When I go to leads, it goes stereo and I hear it in both ears. But whenever I'm playing rhythms, which is like majority of the time, I don't hear any of the left of me playing. I just hear the right. So we're almost going overtime trying to figure out why this isn't working. There's a room of industry people looking at us, kind of expecting us to sort this out as soon as we can so we can start playing. I can't hear myself. And Chris suggested, just to get the show going, how about we just, you know, go straight from your quad cortex into the front of house and don't put it through your rig, because it must be something through there. And in the moment I was stressed out and I said, yeah, sure, why not? And as I'm unplugging, that's when it clicked that I'm literally not going to hear myself for about 80% of this set, because when I'm playing, I'm hearing my right side in my ears. And if I'm going direct to front of house from the quad cortex and it's not going through our in-ear rig, that means I can't hear myself. So basically for the next 30 minutes, I was literally playing from, you know, the faint sounds that I was hearing outside of my monitors. I even took them out for a second, but I ended up putting them back in because it was way too loud. But I was pretty much playing off muscle memory and the very, very faint signal that I was hearing during some select lead parts. But I think from what I played and from how I sounded from the videos, that it went okay, I think. And that was it. You know, that's a very condensed retelling of those 3 days, but you know, it was an awesome experience. Did I see a benefit of going to Big Sound as a whole? In terms of the actual purpose of the event, probably not. It's super easy to tell that this festival isn't really catered towards heavy music, which is honestly fine and fair enough. This in turn does limit the overall outcomes that a heavier act can kind of get from Big Sound, and kind of steers away from the whole festival's purpose of connecting the artists with industry people to kind of excel their careers, because, you know, at the end of the day, I didn't get a international booking agent, I didn't get a manager, I didn't get PR, I didn't get a publicist, I didn't get any of that, which is kind of like the whole point of the festival. But as far as the experience of actually going to Brisbane, playing those 3 shows in those 3 days in that super fast paced, kind of thrown in the deep end environment and making all those new friends with all those bands that I mentioned along the way, yes, it was absolutely worth it, and I would do it a million times over. And that was Big Sound. So if you guys like this video, please leave a like and a comment on anything you saw or heard. And if you want to see more of this stuff, definitely think about subscribing. If you guys want to support me directly, you can check out things like tabs, stems, DIs, all that good stuff is on my Patreon, as well as all the affiliate links, web store. Anything that you can support me on is down in the description below. Massive thank you to Gothic Jewelry for sponsoring this video. Massive thank you to all my Patreons. Without you guys, I wouldn't be in the position to make videos like this or probably even go to Big Sound in the first place. And massive thank you to all of you for watching. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Ciao.